hard you look, girl.
Hey everybody, it's me, RunnerEye, and today we're going to be ranking the most iconic feuds in all of Drag Race. These are the perfect, imperfect pairings that we've seen on Drag Race, who like got on each other's nerves, fought all the time, maybe even attempted to kill each other. We don't know for sure, maybe. And then we're going to be putting them into a tier list based on how iconic they really are. Let's get into it right now. So first up, we have Raven versus Tatiana on season 2.
Raven, who would you send home tonight?
I would say Tatiana. I think she's comfortable being a beautiful girl.
No. Not the case.
And this is one of the more one-sided feuds that we have on the list today, because for some reason, Raven just absolutely hated Tatiana's guts, and like every single opportunity that she had to like make fun of Tatiana or to drag Tatiana across the coals, she took.
Tatiana is about face value. So f you, Tatiana.
And I think that the scene which best kind of like exemplifies the one-sidedness of this feud is the scene in Untucked, which I'm just going to show you here because there's no words which can describe how funny this scene is, but the editors completely threw Raven under the bus.
All of you guys think that I'm like shit, that I'm like nothing.
I would never say that. Her interview was shit. Her look was shit. Her book cover was shit. Her trying to launch and sell her book to the judges was shit. She's shit. I would never say that.
And even though this feud was like very one-sided, Tatiana did eventually fight back, or more so stand up for herself in the reunion.
Until the point that I'm not done talking yet. You will speak when I'm done.
Oh, honey.
Girl, security.
It's kind of just Raven punching air for like the majority of this feud, just because Tatiana never really gives into it until the very end. And so you just have an entire like season of Raven like ripping into someone who's like not even acknowledging her existence. It's really funny. This is the perfect imperfect pairing. So next up we have the Heathers versus the Boogers on season 3.
I would like to see Shangela go. She's just a loud mouth and she's always talking and alley-looing. Raja.
Stacy and Shangela, get the f out.
These were like two groups in season 3. The Heathers being like Raja, Manila, Delta Work, and Carmen Carrera, and then the Boogers being like Shangela, Alexis, Yara, and Stacey Lane Matthews. And this feud was kind of started when the Heathers started calling themselves the Heathers, and they started calling other contestants the Boogers.
What about you, Heather?
Who the is Heather? I want to know.
And then at the end of the season, in the reunion, RuPaul calls into question whether or not this kind of like labeling of different groups was all tongue-in-cheek, or was it actually like harmful and like offensive to the people who were labeled the Buggers.
It's not shady, it's funny. It's just for
To you.
When you have fun. But if you take it that personal, that's your insecurity.
But then at the end of this fight, Raja, being the icon that she is, finally accepts that, hey, if someone is, you know, getting offended by something we're doing, we should probably stop doing it. And so she decides to take off her Heather necklace that all of the Heathers were wearing and to give it to Stacey Lane Matthews because she had said that she was offended by it. But to get back to the tier list, where does it place? I personally don't care for this feud all that much. I think it's one of the more boring feuds. So we're gonna put it in Ryan Murphy would make an exploitative Netflix show about it. I think that that's a fair placement. So next up, we have the season 4 feud that is Fifi O'Hara versus Sharon Needles.
Tired ass showgirl.
Showgirl, at least I am a showgirl, bitch. Go back to Party City where you belong.
Now this is like one of the 2 most iconic feuds in all of Drag Race. And it's interesting because in recent years it's kind of been recontextualized because Sharon has been accused of doing, like I can't even, that list would be too long to even get into. But she's been accused of doing a bunch of problematic things. Really problematic thing, like really bad things. Go look it up. But because Sharon was kind of viewed as the protagonist in this, you know, feud back then, and there was like Sharon Needles versus Fifi O'Hara, and Fifi O'Hara was seen as the villain. Now it's been kind of recontextualized, where in the year of 2024, you now see Fifi O'Hara as the savior. She's the person that people now root for in this feud against Sharon, which is a really like interesting subversive interpretation. But just to talk about like this feud a little bit, they do have super iconic fights. One of the, probably the most iconic fight now that I think of it, of all of Drag Race, which is the Party City fight.
Go
You've
back
won
and do
nothing.
your only one look that you got.
Oh, I have one look? Tired ass showgirl.
Showgirl, at least I am a showgirl. Go back to Party City where you belong.
And this was like the first time that the producers of the show realized that having feuds on a season is like really ripping television, because they made an entire like episode specifically for Sharon and Fifi to have a feud in, where they like made them work together. And the reason that they justified them working together was making them do like a personality lie detector test, and then the results of the lie detector test would see who was the most different on the cast to you, and then of course they use that as an excuse to pair up Fifi and Sharon. But anyway, then I guess like the ending of their feud is that like Sharon won this season, so that kind of like that doesn't age well. It is a perfect imperfect pairing. I mean, they literally have like statistics from the lie detector test, so it's like we can't really argue with a lie detector test. It told us with maths and logic and facts, and to quote RuPaul herself, you know, facts don't care about my feelings, and the show has proven that. Okay, so I was making a Ben Shapiro joke here for literally no reason other than I thought it would be funny to compare RuPaul to Ben Shapiro. But then I was rewatching the reunion for season 2, and it turns out RuPaul says like this exact thing.
We are overly sensitive, but your feelings are not facts.
So that is an interesting parallel. So next up we have Alyssa Edwards versus Coco Montrese on season 5.
Girl, look how orange you look, girl. You were used to being my room. Miss Coco, you're taking it personal. I'm joking.
Oh, now I'm not joking, bitch.
I talked about this pretty recently. I don't remember what video it was in, but I talked about, oh, it was the lip sync video that I did. I talked about it at length. I went into the whole history and I explained this entire feud. And it was like this huge thing. It was great. Highly recommend watching. So I'm not gonna go too into, you know, detail on this just because I've done it before, but this is my personal favorite feud of the entire show. Coco Montrese is my favorite character in all of Drag Race. She's the funniest person the entire show has ever seen. They should do another global all-star season and put Coco Montrese as the US thing and then rig it for her to win like they did. But again, like I've said before, this feud is iconic. They had an entire feud before the show even started with Alyssa Edwards being crowned Miss Gay USA. And then she didn't fulfill the crowning duties, and so it was given to the runner-up, which was Coco Montrese. They were put on a season together. They absolutely hated each other, fought about the most petty stuff that you could possibly imagine.
And the Academy Award goes to you, Alyssa.
It also has a huge climactic ending, which I talked about at length in my other video, guys. You have to go watch. Anyway, this is my favorite of the feuds. We're gonna be putting it in. Could you guess? It's the Alyssa versus Coco tier. That's absolutely where it's gonna be put in. Could you imagine if I didn't put it in that one? That would have been so confusing. Anyway, so next up we have Jinx Monsoon versus Roxy Andrews.
Can I get
I feel the Jinx is the weakest because...
Now you may notice that I am not there physically, and that is because I literally forgot to talk about this entry because I was so into talking about Alyssa versus Coco that I forgot that Roxy versus Jinx even existed. So now I have to do it like retroactively as this whole thing anyway. Along with Fifi and Sharon, this is like the other feud that's kind of like, you know, if I was like name a Drag Race feud, this is one of the ones that you would come up with. This is like one of the most famous ones. This was like the ultimate underdog storyline for like a feud, because you had Roxy, who was like a huge pageant queen. She had like established friends in the competition, was kind of like the popular girl. And then you had Jinx, who was like the quirky oddball outcast. Roxy like came for Jinx a lot during the competition because she was threatened by her, and then eventually Jinx went on to win. I can't believe I literally forgot to talk about it like at all, because I think this is one of the only other ones that we're going to be talking about here today, which actually deserves the top tier. Next up, we have Bianca Del Rio versus Laganja on season 6.
Well, girl, I'm young and hung and clearly march to the sound of my own drum, so props to you, mama.
Wait, where did that come from?
Now, this was a feud that was started because Laganja was supposedly playing a character for the cameras. Bianca took issue with that and kind of like called her out on it multiple times. And then everything kind of comes to a climax in the Untucked episode where Laganja knows that she's in the bottom, so she's probably a little bit, you know, emotionally volatile. And then Bianca decides that that would be the perfect time to confront her about how fake she is.
When you've had conversations with me off camera, you're a very lovely person.
This is the first time that you've all brought this to me, and if it, well, go ahead and make that face.
This is the face I got.
And then Laganja gets super offended and she goes off, as the kids say. She went off.
I got it. I got it from you. I got it from you. I am annoying. I am fake. I'm not who I'm being. I'm pretending to be somebody I'm not.
Sandra, I didn't want to make it that everybody was attacking you.
I feel very attacked.
Relax, relax.
I'm gonna put it in the perfect imperfect pairing. Guys, these earlier seasons have really good feuds. So next up we have Pearl versus RuPaul.
So there's something on my face.
One of the most uncomfortable feuds in the entirety of the show. We have the host of the show, beefing with like a 23-year-old, which started with RuPaul confronting Pearl, saying that she's too like subdued and laid back, and that she wanted Pearl to be more outgoing and more high energy. And so in order to inspire the courage within her to be larger than life, she tells Pearl that she has no personality. And we get this really uncomfortable scene.
Well, you kind of like told me I had no personality. I mean, that doesn't make me feel good or give me confidence.
And then we have some extra behind the scenes knowledge where Pearl claims that she tried to be really nice to RuPaul and tried to like thank her and be like, oh my God, you're such an icon. Thank you so much for having me on this show. And then RuPaul apparently, allegedly, dismissed her and said,
nothing you say matters unless that camera is rolling.
So, not the most like friendly, fun, funky feud. You can guarantee that Ryan Murphy would make an exploitative Netflix show about this. I think that out of all of them that we've come across so far, this would be the one that Ryan Murphy would want to make a little show about. So next up we have Bob the Drag Queen versus Derek Barry on season 8.
Your intentions weren't to hurt me.
No, they weren't to hurt. If I wanted to hurt you, you'd be crying right now, bitch.
I will never cry over you at all.
Don't give me a challenge.
And this was another case of just like two, opposite personalities, like completely clashing on the show. And just like the Fifi versus Sharon, feud, the show also puts Derek Barry and Bob the Drag Queen on the same team for a challenge to see if they would sink or swim. And they ended up swimming, and they actually got the win together before one of the next episodes where Bob and Derek both land in the bottom, and then Bob absolutely destroys Derek Barry to Sylvester, You Make Me Feel, which is like, I don't think Derek Barry really had a chance. This is a really solid feud. Again, one of the more memorable ones we're talking about. So I would put it in perfect imperfect pairing because they unironically are the perfect imperfect pairing. So next up we have Eureka versus the Vixen on season 10.
Go have your cigarette because it's done.
And this feud was largely started in Untucked, where Eureka starts to kind of like poke the bear, which is what the Vixen referred to herself as. She kind of like pokes the Vixen in like these little jabs.
Do y'all hear me? I'm getting tired of hearing you talk, honestly. Can I go smoke?
If you need to go smoke, just say that.
And then it kind of like swirls into this huge feud between the two. At the very end of the season, the Vixen tries to kind of like say her piece about why she reacted towards Eureka the way that she did, and the way that she was kind of vilified among fans. She kind of gets like shut down, and then literally feels like that she doesn't have a voice to the point where she leaves the place, and instead of like approaching that situation with empathy, they actually give out to Asia O'Hara for even empathizing with the Vixen, which is like such a it was such a weird. I hate this feud. It's like such it's icky. It's like icky the way that they handled it on the show. I really just dislike this feud overall. This is going in the Ryan Murphy would make an exploitative Netflix show about it. So next up we have Silky versus Evie on season 11.
Sasha Velour was safe every week
And won.
That's because Sasha Velour was talented.
This feud has a lot of funny moments in it, but specifically, there's one Untucked sequence that is so funny. It's so funny, and it's so sick and twisted and evil. Like, it is an evil thing to say, but it's so funny.
I'm in this competition not for your satisfaction.
Girl, and apparently not for the judges either.
What?
The woman was too stunned to speak.
And as well as that funny Untucked moment, you also have the more iconic moment of this feud, which is the, if I had to lip sync, I was ready to do so.
If I would have lip synced for my mother life today, bitch, I was mother ready. I was ready to do so.
What does that have to do with anything, bitch?
But this is a really funny feud. It kind of fades out a little bit at the end just because in the lip sync for the crown, Silky had the opportunity to choose Evie and kind of give us the moment that we were waiting for, the lip sync battle between the two, but she ultimately chooses Brooklyn Heights. This is going in the perfect imperfect pairing. Next up, we have Britta versus Aiden Zane on season 12.
And I'm working so hard, and I'm really giving everything that I have to do this, and I don't think that Aiden should have been saved.
And this was a feud that was kind of boiling for, the early points in the season because they were forced to work on a team together and Britta didn't enjoy working with Aiden Zane. But, all that is fine and dandy, it's whatever. But the catalyst for this feud really taking off is because on the Grey's Anatomy episode in the Untucked, Britta is kind of frustrated that she's in the bottom again, and then she kind of draws attention to Aiden Zane, and then it turns into this huge kind of everyone versus Aiden Zane, with Britta kind of leading the charge until Heidi steps in and she decides to defend Aiden Zane with her life. They eventually end up in the bottom together, which the show loves to do, and then Britta sends home Aiden Zane to a Frozen song of all things. Overall, the dynamic between the two, Aiden Zane and Britta, it's not the most compelling, it's not the most interesting. I feel like it could have been a lot more. So next up, we have Candy versus Tamisha on season 13.
I'm gonna smack this somewhere. I do not want to be here.
You may hit me
I do not want to be
but
here.
you won't hit me.
This is
You
ridiculous.
won't hit me.
Now, this is one of the most insane feuds that we've had because it's one of the first feuds which almost gets physical. In their fight in Untucked on the bag ball, I think it was, the two of them literally size each other up and they fully proper almost fight, which is super interesting. We've never had a feud where the two normally it's just kind of bickering and just petty insults, but this is the first time that they were getting up in each other's space. They were doing the America's Next Top Model on the Wii. Does anyone remember that? This is the most intense feud that we've seen so far in terms of proper beefing, and it is so sad that the next episode that these two are in after their huge fight, they put them in the bottom and then they get rid of Tamisha. This is the most wasted potential that we've ever had in a feud. It could have been so good. So this is going in the could have been so much more because it's kind of the epitome of that. So next up we have Diabetti versus Jasmine.
The more I watch myself on TV, the more I'm I am just like her. I'm literally just an older Jasmine, but prettier. I'm just kidding.
So this was a feud between Diabetti and Jasmine, as I said. Diabetti found Jasmine to be an energy vampire, as she quotes in the reunion. And so Diabetti just kind of ripped into Jasmine a lot. Anytime that she saw an opportunity to jab at Jasmine, she would. And then their beef concludes with, Jasmine and Diabetti getting into it at the finale where Diabetti gets really upset that she was perceived that way. And Jasmine kind of rips into her for all the times that she was ripped into. And so it's not the most memorable or interesting feud, to be honest. It's one of the more boring ones. It could have been so much more. It just was very forgettable. So next up we have Mistress Isabel Brooks versus Lucy.
Are you learning how to work that sewing machine?
Actually, quite the opposite, love. I was offering her some advice.
Now, this was one of the feuds on season 15. It was probably the biggest of the feuds. And we have Mistress, who is kind of just the troll, the troll 2011 meme. She's that brought to life. And she basically just saw Lucy as someone who she could troll to the ends of the earth, and so she decides to take every single opportunity to mess with Lucy in every way that she can. But this is again one of the feuds where Lucy doesn't really fight back all that much. It's just Mistress, trolling the hell out of Lucy, and Lucy having to kind of do damage control afterwards. It had a few iconic moments. I think that's a fair placement. Now we have Plain Jane versus Amanda Tori Meeting on season 16.
You are a girl from the cast that I have not really connected with.
Yes.
Look-wise.
Oh! Now this is one of my most mourned feuds because it ended so early. This is just like Tamisha and Candy. They prematurely cut this feud off so early by sending Amanda home because the feud between Plain Jane and Amanda was so good. The short fights that we did get with them was so funny. It was such a wasted opportunity. It's so sad. Unironically, it could have been top tier if they had just let it happen Instead, they freaking cut her off so early and they got rid of her, which kind of ended the feud way too prematurely. I think I'm gonna put this in a few iconic moments. So that's the tier list. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps me out. I have a Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you want to go follow me over there, please do. I also have a Patreon where there's an extended version of this very video where we rank all the feuds from the All-Stars seasons. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. So now it is that special time of the week where I give a shout out to Cam, He Him Sir, Ryan the Nerd, Lucian, Emma Waters, Jay Stevenson, did you just say Wig? Reese Burke, James Burton, Cool Gal Nan, Vern Wisner, Brony RuPaul, Valerie with Love, Jabroni, Giovanni JPEG, Count Cacula, Michael, Planet Daniel, The Almighty Anginator, Mobster Lobster, Jim Jamie James Bradshaw, Nika Montano, Ravi Kasari, Eve, Dip, Oliver Wyatt, Yoon Wyatt, Vico Pop, and Tone. Thank you so much to every single one of the patrons. You are amazing, you are wonderful. I have like the opposite of a feud with you. What is the opposite of a feud? I'm not even sure, but that's what we have. I appreciate all of your support.